How's it going, everyone? Nick from Comic Culture here. It is time for another episode of Nick at Night, the weekly comic book review show where I tell you what I thought about the books I read this week. We got a decent amount to go through, so let's get started. All right, welcome back. We're going to start over in the big two. We're going to start with Devil's Reign, issue number 6 from Chip Zdarsky and Kiketo, right? I think it's Kiketo. I keep forgetting how to say that. Please correct me down below if you know the proper pronunciation. So this is the big conclusion to our big Devil's Reign event. This was all built up in Daredevil, the Zdarsky run. The artwork is superb in this particular issue. So the review is going to be kind of more high level, not necessarily specific to this one issue, because I feel like it's appropriate. It's the end of this whole run. And so I thought it was pretty good. I thought the art style was amazing. It's what you would expect from Marco. We do have a lot of Wilson Fisk just trying to like rig this election to be mayor again. And he's using some of the supers to kind of help him do that. I won't get into the big details about how and who and all that stuff, but he's got some teams put together. He's got some very specific people picked out to do some very specific things. And so our heroes are trying to like counteract that plan right there. It is very much focused on Daredevil and what's going on there. We do see the Avengers and we see other people popping in and out here and there. We do get Doc Ock and like his Superior Four show up here and there. They don't play a gigantic role in this. So if you really like that team or like that premise, you're not going to get a whole lot of it in this run. This is a big Daredevil Wilson Fisk kind of a thing. So they do tie up a few little, not loose ends, but they do tie up a few things that they introduced in the main Daredevil run. We do get a little bit of Elektra in here. We get a lot of different people involved in this one, but kind of at the end of the day, I'm trying to figure out what exactly the long-term effect of this little mini event is. You know, are we that much different? Are we that much worse off than we were when we first kind of started this? Yes, some people have a little bit different direction now than they did in the beginning of this, but so what? Like, what was the biggest difference at the end of this book from the beginning of this book? I haven't quite figured that out yet. I'm still trying to process it. But we did get a lot of great action in here, a lot of cool character moments. Wilson Fisk kind of at his high and his lowest, which was really fun. It's great to see a lot of the heroes teaming up to take on these threats, and there was a hell of a lot of threats. So that was really fun to see too. We got some really cool ruthless scenes throughout the series. And we're going to see if, our heroes can kind of prevail and clean up the mess. And if they can kind of, take Wilson Fisk off the throne eventually, however they can. So it's going to be interesting to see where it goes from here. I'm excited for Daredevil. I'm excited for Elektra. I'm just kind of excited to see what the next phase is going to look like. I have my suspicions of where Daredevil's going to go from here and a possible tie-in, which I would actually be really excited to see. But we'll see where it goes. So at the end of the day, I don't know how much this changes the landscape overall, but it was a decent story. It had some familiar tones to it from like Civil War. It was drawn beautifully, and it's Chip Zdarsky. So, I mean, the writing's at least going to be good. A lot of highs, lots of lows, a lot of emotion. So pretty cool action-packed run through all 6 issues. So I will give it that. But if you haven't read this yet, I would definitely try to pick up all the copies and read it, but don't look for anything that's going to like completely change the landscape at like the street level Marvel hero perspective. So that's it for Devil's Reign. We're going to jump over into some X-Men books next. We're going to go into X-Men Red #1. I also have Marauders #1. And so I picked these up. This is from Al Ewing, X-Men Red. And I picked these up because they're new #1s, and they pretty much feature teams that I'm not really familiar with at the moment. As you know, I've been reading House of X and Powers of X. I've been catching up on the recent X-Men stuff. I read Inferno. I read X Lives and X Deaths of Wolverine. And so that's kind of my background. That's my perspective. Other than that, it's like the old movies and like the TV show and stuff like that back in the day. So I haven't read a lot of the Uncanny stuff or anything else, all those other ancillary stories that have been going on, even Marauders and whatnot. So my understanding of a lot of these characters right now is pretty limited and pretty like short-sighted as far as like their history. Just for the past couple of years, I've been kind of catching up on these characters. So I will say that both of these books are not very new reader friendly. I will say that if you are not someone who's been keeping up with a lot of these different people and understand what Arakko is or what Krakoa is or who Vulcan is or who Sunspot is. If you don't know these people, you're going to read this book and you're not really going to be impacted. I don't think that much. I mean, in X-Men Red, we have a lot of like Magneto kind of playing a role that he really hasn't played before. He's trying to kind of wither away. He's trying to hide. He's trying to go somewhere where he won't be bothered, where he can kind of start fresh, kind of give up his old dreams and kind of go from there, and just kind of, find his final resting place in a way. It's kind of odd. He's kind of like a wounded cat, like trying to find somewhere to like run away and kind of die, it seems like. Maybe I'm completely wrong. That's kind of the perspective I got. We have Storm realizing she's kind of betrayed her own self, and she's in a place right now where she's not comfortable and she wants to break out and kind of do her own thing again. We have Sunspot kind of feeling the same way, and we have all these just weird collaborations of different people getting together, trying to form these new teams and stuff. And so I feel like if you're not really up to date on everyone and everyone's motives and like frame of minds, you might not appreciate all the nuances in X-Men Red. I think I'm going to stick it out. It's kind of a hot seat book right now for me because I don't know. I really wasn't impacted by it at all. I will say that the art was decent. It didn't absolutely blow me away, but I think I enjoyed it about as much as I enjoyed Marauders. I'm used to certain people's pencilings, and so when I see something like this, it's a little bit more washy, a little bit more not as much detail as I was hoping. Everything seems really shiny, and I don't really dig that in comics that much. But sometimes you have to jump into the deep end sometimes and just kind of take it as it is. So I'm gonna probably keep reading X-Men Red just because I'm curious to see where it's gonna go. And, the best way to kind of get oriented to characters is just keep reading them and see where it takes you. So X-Men Red, I would say it's not new user-friendly, new reader-friendly especially. And but if you want to kind of jump in and see where it's going to go, then go for it. I think Al Ewing's a great writer. I can't wait to see where he takes the story. So I'm probably going to stick it out with X-Men Red. So it's kind of the same thing with Marauders. It's a decent place to jump in. There are some familiar faces in here if you're from old school readers and whatnot. We do have some Cassandra Nova stuff in here. I'm not too sure when she was introduced, but the concept of her has been around for as long as Charles, at least, right? But we do have some Kitty Pryde. We have Bishop. We have Psylocke. We have Dakin in here. We got Tempo. We have a bunch of people that we would probably recognize, at least if you're not a long-term reader. And I did like kind of how Kitty Pryde's using this team right now. She's kind of like bringing everybody together. She's building this team, and she's reaching out and going out on a limb and bringing in Cassandra Nova and bringing her talents on there. Now, obviously, she's pretty controversial about her history and the relationships with different people, but she has a certain motivation. She has an idea here that is kind of foolproof in a way, and so they're all about just kind of rescuing mutants right now. And so they're going to be heading over to the Shi'ar Empire to kind of figure out how they can be useful over there. And we're introduced to some new threats and things like that, things we haven't seen before, as far as I know. The art style on this one, it's very, very colorful. I love the line work and everything. I feel like the faces are a little bit more anime-ish than I'm used to and that I would kind of enjoy. But overall, it was intriguing. It was definitely intriguing. I think it was more interesting than X-Men Red at the end of the day. But then again, I know more people on this team, and I'm just more interested in what they're into right now. So these weren't really strong issue number ones for me. So if you have a long history with X-Men and things like that and Marauders, you might appreciate some of the nuances that I didn't quite pick up. But they were at least interesting enough to see where the next issues go. But they didn't really nail the first issue landing that I would expect. But I think it did its job. Barely. So I'm going to keep picking these up most likely and just kind of see where the story goes. So the next book we're going to get into is Moon Knight issue number 10 from Jed MacKay. And again, I think this whole series, this book is no different. This whole series has the same strengths and I think the same weaknesses that I've talked about for the last 10 issues. And I think the strength is the fact that we're getting more familiar with the Moon Knight character, and we're getting more used to like his thought process and what his mission is and what his goals are, which I think is pretty cool. The art style, I absolutely love. I love how radiant he is. I love how he's drawn. I love the artwork and the line work and everything in there. The colors and the shadows and everything. It's really a great book. There's like a lens flare quality to all the different panels, which is awesome to kind of see. But basically, this is another kind of a one shot, one and done, introduce the villain or the threat, and then take care of it in the same issue and not really developing the overall plot, but maybe referencing some other things that have happened. So I don't quite know where this book is going just yet. We have Zodiac referenced in here. We have another like low-level threat that has infiltrated Moon Knight's area, his mission, and Moon Knight recognizes that and takes care of the threat. And he uses some of the resources that he's gathered along the way. So they all feel like one and done issues, but when you add them up all together, there's like very, very slow progression towards some kind of an end goal. Is it going to be another face-off with Zodiac? I don't know. I don't know exactly where they're going with the book. I'm having a great time reading them, and I'm not too upset that it's not really going anywhere. But 10 more issues from now, what are we gonna be thinking? Are we gonna get anywhere? I don't know. Again, the art style, the coloring, the lines and everything, the panels and stuff like that are all gorgeous. Absolutely love those. I want to know where we're going with the story. These one and done stories for the last 10 issues with barely overarching plots is interesting. But I want some overall progression. So that's my thoughts on this. But I do look forward to reading Moon Knight every time it comes out because they're just really fun. But again, 10 issues from now, am I going to feel the same way? Don't know. But Moon Knight, I would definitely pick it up. If you like the show, you'll know the stuff about the show even more after reading this book because it's essentially a somewhat of an origin story. They go over that in the first couple issues of this book, and they kind of touch base on it here and there and develop the character throughout this little run here. So Moon Knight, great pickup. We'll see where it goes though. All right, that is it for Marvel. We're going to jump over into DC. We have a few books from DC. We're going to start with kind of an older story. And I don't remember where I've heard this story before, but this is Flashpoint Batman Night of Vengeance #1 from Brian Azarello. So this is basically not a retelling, but kind of like the Thomas Wayne Batman. This isn't an alternate universe, so it's not in our current continuity. And this is the story of what if Joe Chill that night didn't kill Thomas and Martha Wayne, but they killed Bruce Wayne instead. Martha goes insane. She becomes the Joker. Thomas Wayne becomes the Batman. And he's really vengeful and he like kills people and everything else. And he becomes like this casino owner and stuff. So interesting take on the family that we know now. This book is brutal. It's got lots of shocking moments in here. This Batman is definitely different than the Batman that we're used to. The Joker is just as sadistic, but just in a more personal, weird way. There's lots of little twists in here, but I've heard or seen this story, essentially this origin before, and I don't know if it was in maybe like the animated Flashpoint movie or maybe it was somewhere else or another book that I read, but I was very familiar with the origin of all this and all these people that were involved. I was hoping this was going to be a little bit more focused on Martha and her transition into the Joker. It wasn't that. It was everything is well established and it was just like another day. But this is kind of like a turning point in the relationship that everybody has in this universe. So if you don't know who Thomas Wayne is, other than like he's this weird alternate version of Batman and it's like Thomas Wayne instead of Bruce Wayne, I would pick this up to kind of get oriented into it, especially with the Flashpoint kind of event coming back. And with the movie coming eventually too, you never know. You might want to, just kind of get refreshed up on who all these different people are. Brian Azarello, pretty good. Art was really good as well. Not a whole lot of dialogue. It feels extra sized, but it reads pretty quick. It is square bound. So that is neat as well. I would pick it up if you're not really quite familiar with these characters, just to get you oriented for future events that come up and just, general knowledge. All right, while we're in Batman, we're going to jump over to Batman 122. Got the variant cover here. So we're kind of winding down the Deathstroke event that's going on right now, but it is pretty interesting. It is very interesting. I will say that the art in this book and the pace and the style, it feels very much like as action-packed as the Tynan run, which is kind of just like pedal to the metal, absolute chaos and craziness going on. The art was way different in this book, and it's really cool. So we have Howard Porter on the art, and I loved it. I love the art. I loved all the action in here. It's basically the Deathstroke kills Ra's al Ghul. Batman's trying to investigate how and when and how could he possibly do this? We have a few different characters coming together. We got some Talia in here, got some Ravager in here. We get Robin in here as well. So there's a few other people that are showing up here and there in this book. And it is completely action-packed and crazy. And I wish that we started with something like this style, this pace, with this kind of art back when Tynan's run ended, because I feel like that would have made me super excited and like sad almost that we're going to be switching creative teams, even though I love the creative team coming. So this issue of Batman, drawn and written very differently than the last couple issues of Batman that we read since Tynan left. But it was a welcome addition, and it almost makes me sad that we're not going to get this going forward. So with that said, the new creative team will be welcome when they come. So Batman 122, if you haven't liked the last 3 or so Batman issues, I think this one will be one that you should be paying attention to, and you'll enjoy this one. All right, jumping over to ComixKings, we have Batman Killing Time. This is issue number 2. And the first thing I noticed about this book was basically there's, 7 time jumps in the first 6-7 pages? This is Tom King time jumping on every single page. I think there's a time jump on every page, and that's probably the bit for this entire book. Now, where does it pick off? The heist already happened. Batman's trying to figure out who is involved, what's going on. We have so many time jumps that I just talked about the item that was actually stolen. We have yet to figure out what that item is, unless I'm stupid and didn't kind of pick up the clues over there. So we had a lot of this like whatever BC kind of stuff happening, and it was supposed to like tell the story about what this artifact might be. Maybe there's some hints here and there, but this is basically Selina Kyle and the Riddler kind of hiding out, trying to find a buyer for this particular item. Batman going around trying to piece together all the clues, trying to figure out who was involved, who wasn't involved, catching up a little bit on Killer Croc and his fiance and things like that. So we're still trying to put the puzzle pieces together. He's peppering in a whole lot of like history and weird time jumps, like I just said. And a lot of the jumps are completely unnecessary. It's like, 2 days ago, a woman's sitting on the bench and she's waiting at the bus stop and the Batmobile flies. And then, 5 seconds later, the Batmobile flies by. The next page, 2 days from then or a week from then. It's like, what was the point of that whole time jump? So anyway, there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on here. So if you don't mind that just crazy, okay, where are we now? What's going on now? If you can get past all that, there's probably a good story somewhere in here. But I would like just kind of like a chronological order version of this story. But it is intriguing. There's some interesting people in here. There's a mysterious item that they stole. Batman's really upset about it, and he needs to figure out where it is really quickly. And they did leave you hanging. So there's a decent hook at the end of this issue. So we'll see where it goes. We're on issue number 2. There's 6 issues. We got 4 left. So Killing Time, if you need another Batman book in your life, this one's a little bit different. If you don't, you could probably skip it as it is right now, but we'll see. We'll see how he closes this one out. All right, that's it for the big 2. We're going to jump over into some indie books. We're going to start over in Image because we got a couple of those to go through with a long-awaited return of Firepower from Robert Kirkman and Samney on the art. This is issue number 19. So where we left off with this one is we had our temple. It was the Flaming Fist temple. It was completely destroyed by these possessive serpent clan. I keep forgetting what they're actually called, but Owen and the whole family's there to kind of protect Ed all. They got overrun. The whole temple was destroyed, and basically this gigantic mythological dragon was unleashed on the world. They just cannot believe their eyes, and they don't know what they're going to do. And they're kind of surrounded by the enemy right now. So it's basically getting reacclimated into what the threat really is. There's a beautiful first page spread on here to kind of give you some perspective on what the enemy is actually all about. And we get some interesting paneling here and some introductions to some samurai guys that might be in the know, some guys of legend perhaps, going around doing some low level, heroism kinds of things over here. But he sees what's happening. He sees this dragon's unleashed, and he seems to have at least some kind of an idea what's going on. And maybe he can join our heroes here and help them save the day. So I will be interested in that. Not a whole lot of dialogue in here. I would say moderate, but most of the pages are blank. From a dialogue perspective, it really lets the art tell the story, which I think it did a great job of doing that. Lots of panels in here have active motion in here, so it's very easy to follow what is happening. Pretty simple concepts in here. But yeah, I would say that this was actually kind of a welcome addition. I was missing Firepower in my life. I was saying before, Firepower has always kind of been steady. There's never really a big high. There's never really any lows. It's very character driven, and this book kind of cranked up the action a little bit because I think it was a way to kind of get people more excited about it for the first issue back. So we'll see if it kind of continues that trend or if it kind of plateaus and stay in that, that middle range going forward. But I enjoyed it. I actually liked this one a lot. This was one of my favorite books of the week just because it, got us back into the story again, and I actually missed it. I didn't think I was going to miss it, honestly. But I actually did. So Firepower number 19, not a bad read. All right, we're going over into Little Monsters. Jeff Lemire, Dustin Nguyen. This is issue number 2. So in the first issue, they did a great job of kind of bringing us into this world. It was drawn like a black and white kind of a watercolory style, which I thought was pretty fun and interesting. Not a whole lot of color. There's some splashes of red and some blues and greens here and there, just kind of purposefully bringing some color into the world here. And we had some assumptions about what these children were. Of course, we look at the covers. Do they have fangs? Do they not have fangs? You really didn't understand the time of day in the book, but they did allude to like, hey, the sun's coming up. So eventually you kind of learn some of the hints here and there, like, are these kids vampires? They feel like they're vampires. So they do clarify exactly what's going on as far as like the origin, what they are, what kinds of monsters they are. So I'll let you read that and try to figure that one out. And it was interesting. Not a whole lot happens in this book. We kind of touch back on the previous issue. And it kind of starts where that one leaves off right there. We are introduced at the very, very last page, another little hook, but I don't really know if it's that interesting. So we'll see where this one goes. I think artistically, this is a beautiful book. Nothing too crazy with the paneling or the compositions or anything like that. Our characters really haven't like fallen in love with any of the characters yet. It is an interesting premise. It's drawn beautifully. It is Jeff Lemire. It's probably going to pull at our heartstrings eventually. I don't know how many issues this is. It's probably going to be, 6, 12, 5, something like that. Who knows? It's not going to be an ongoing series from what I understand. But is this going to be a story that we're going to be talking about in a year, 5 years? I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see how much, he can pull at the heartstrings. So that's one you might want to consider maybe trade waiting. We're only 2 issues in. It could pick up a whole lot from there, but I don't know if it will. I don't see it happening, but maybe it will. I would say if you're a Wednesday warrior, probably be picking this up. It's a great artist and it's a great writer on an interesting book. It just hasn't done anything to completely blow me away yet after just 2 issues. So it's doing enough for me to keep it on the pull list for sure. So we're going to see where it goes. We're going to see where it goes from there. Let me know what you guys are thinking about Little Monsters right now, and if you're picking it up and really loving it. All right, a book out of Boom Studios is Alice Ever After. Pretty much picked it up because of the frozen cover right here. It's a little bit different than what we're used to seeing from her. Typically, she does like collarbone up, just like females, you know what I mean? With like touching their face and doing all sorts of crazy stuff or whatever. A lot of the Catwoman ones have been a little bit different lately. But it's a little bit unusual to have her do like full body with like scenery and some other accessories and stuff like that. So that was pretty interesting. That's the first thing that caught my eye. And then, of course, it's like an Alice in Wonderland supposedly type of a story. So, there's going to be maybe some trippy psychedelic stuff going on there. When I eventually got into the book, the art style is not bad. It kind of has that Disney-ish kind of a vibe. It definitely does have that Alice in Wonderland feel, except it's got a little twist in here. Alice is kind of like the family black sheep. She's into drugs, hanging out with like weird people. And every time she takes medicine, like some kind of pill, some kind of drugs, hallucinogens, whatever, she slips into the Wonderland, right? And so she's not there very long. This book spends the majority of the time in real life, seeing what her family's all about, seeing how much of a black sheep she is. There are some moments in here where she does dip into Wonderland, and it is pretty fun, and there's all the normal characters you would expect. Like, she's beautiful, her hair's done, she's got beautiful clothes, and everything's great. Everyone adores her and, like, gives her presents and stuff. So that's pretty funny. But it didn't really go anywhere. So basically we have a junkie who the family doesn't like, and every time she takes drugs, she goes into Wonderland. So, nothing really else happened in the book. So, I don't know. I might just flip through the next one and see where it goes from there. Let me know down below if there's something else I'm missing in this book. But that's basically the premise of this one. And I think if you just want to, pick it up for the cool covers or whatever, that's your prerogative. But perhaps a trade wait. We'll see where it goes. I'll flip through the next one and make a decision from there. Definitely a hot seat, though. All right, the final book we're going to go over today is Red Room Trigger Warnings #2 from Ed Piskor. This is a volume 2. That's what Trigger Warnings is. And volume 2 started with this one right here. So if you're not familiar with these ones, this is, Murder on the Internet for Fun and Profit or something like that. So it is horror issues, and they're one-off little stories about different people entering the Red Room or making money on Red Room type stuff. It is the goriest of the gore. It is your serial killers broadcasting things live on like a Twitch type platform, accepting donations, escalating their techniques and things like that. And then there's going to be like an overall story about their run from the police or something like that. And this one is no different. This one focuses on a couple that owes some bad people a lot of money. They got to figure out a way to get money very quickly. And they quickly remember that, you know, this thing like the Red Room does exist and it actually pays really well if it's done right. And so they kind of explore that space and you get some pretty cool little twists and turns throughout this book. And the ending is actually pretty satisfying as well. It's sadistic. It's very graphic. It's very gory. There's plenty of nudity and gore and everything in this book. So this is not for kids. Keep it off the bottom shelf if you're a retailer. Definitely put it somewhere safe and secure because you don't want this book getting in the wrong hands. It's actually banned in like 7 stores across America. So it's definitely on people's radar. And so if you're into something completely crazy, something completely bizarre, unlike anything you've ever read or anything I've ever read, check out Red Room. Trigger warnings starting on issue number 1, but issue number 3 is next. So that's what I read and that's what I thought about it. Let me know down below in the description what you read and what your favorite picks of the week were. I appreciate you watching. Like, subscribe, share, hit that bell notification to be alerted of future videos. I appreciate you watching. We'll see you in the comments.